When did eating a burrito require surveillance footage? At Chipotle, apparently. In 2024, customers began filming their burritos as they were being made. Not for fun, but to make sure they weren't getting ripped off. At first, it seemed like a quirky TikTok trend. Within months, however, that simple act of holding up a smartphone set off a chain reaction that wiped out an estimated $6.5 billion of Chipotle's market value. How could filming a burrito bowl lead to billions in losses? Well, for one, Chipotle stopped doing the one thing that made them Chipotle. They moved away from the very things that made them different, and it showed up in every bowl. Chipotle wasn't always on the defensive. They used to be the fast casual golden child. Fresh ingredients, burritos so stuffed you could barely wrap them. A food with integrity promise that actually meant something. People were obsessed. The early 2010s, that was peak Chipotle. Prices felt like a bargain, and each burrito bowl was a satisfying mountain of rice, beans, and guacamole. Back then, a burrito bowl might cost $8 to $9, and many customers felt they were getting a great deal for the amount and quality of food. The chain rapidly expanded, helped by an early investment from McDonald's, and by 2015, it had over 2,000 locations and nearly $475 million in annual profit. But the higher you climb, the harder you fall. In late 2015, Chipotle's high reputation shattered amid a series of food safety disasters. Over several months, the chain suffered multiple outbreaks of E. coli, norovirus, and salmonella, sickening customers across 14 states. Sales plunged as frightened customers stayed away, and Chipotle's stock plummeted. By the end of that ordeal, the company's market value had been sliced nearly in half, and its founder CEO, Steve Ells, issued public apologies while scrambling to overhaul food safety practices. In response, the company made big changes. These included tightening safety protocols, centralizing some food prep like pre-chopping tomatoes and pre-cooking meats, and focusing on winning back customers. These measures gradually worked, and Chipotle slowly regained its footing in the years that followed. By 2018, a new CEO arrived with fresh ideas. Brian Niccol, poached from Taco Bell, took the baton and refocused Chipotle on digital innovation. He introduced order-ahead apps, delivery partnerships, loyalty rewards, and even promotions on social media. The changes paid off. Chipotle's sales and stock price rose back to life, increasing eightfold during Niccol's 6-year tenure as CEO. The chain hit record revenues of over $8 billion by 2023 and opened hundreds of new locations, including drive-through Chipotlane restaurants for faster pickup. By mid-2024, Chipotle's stock reached an all-time high, and many on Wall Street viewed it as an unstoppable growth story again. The dark days of 2015 were well behind, but new troubles were immediately brewing. While Chipotle was expanding and raising menu prices repeatedly to offset inflation and wage hikes, loyal customers were starting to whisper that something was off. The food didn't taste quite as amazing as they remembered, and portion sizes felt smaller. By 2023, a typical chicken burrito bowl was pushing $13 to $14 in many areas, much pricier than years past, and those bowls sometimes looked half empty. For customers already stretched by inflation, this combination of rising prices and shrinking portions was a bitter pill. Company officials denied that anything had changed.
First, I can tell you the portions have not gotten smaller.
There was no explicit shrinkflation policy on the books, but customers' eyes and stomachs said otherwise. Portions varied wildly from one restaurant to another, and sometimes from one server to another. Without formal guidance, some employees apparently got stingier with scoops to control costs or avoid running out of ingredients. The online complaints kept coming, and they all told the same story: less food, same price. Maybe it was corporate policy, maybe it wasn't, but that didn't matter anymore. The perception was out there, and for a company built on giving you more than you paid for, that's everything. In spring 2024, the tension between Chipotle and its customers exploded into the open. Keith Lee, a popular TikTok food critic with millions of followers, posted a brutally honest review of his Chipotle order. Lee had actually been a huge Chipotle fan and had even created a wildly popular menu hack in 2022. But now in 2024, Lee said it just did not hit the same. Lee's candid review struck a nerve. It felt like the entire internet had opinions about Chipotle's decline. Some TikTokers showed off half-empty bowls and dry, overcooked rice. Others pointed out how ingredients seemed different or lower quality than before. Frustrated customers took matters into their own hands, literally. On TikTok and other platforms, people began testing a theory. Would Chipotle servers give you more food if they knew they were being filmed? And according to many of these videos, it worked, at least occasionally. Users claimed that when they pretended to film, staff tended to scoop extra rice, beans, or meat. This phone method went viral as frustrated fans tried to hold Chipotle to its promise of generous servings. The movement didn't stop at filming. Reports emerged of customers walking out mid-order if they felt the server was being stingy. According to posts on TikTok, this became a recurring trend among a small subset of fed-up customers. Online, people cheered this behavior, essentially saying, "Good, teach them a lesson." On top of that, angry users began review bombing Chipotle's mobile app, leaving one-star reviews complaining about portions. By the summer of 2024, Chipotle's portion controversy was everywhere. In one highly publicized experiment, a Wall Street analyst from Wells Fargo ordered 75 identical Chipotle burrito bowls from various locations and put each one on a scale. What they found was crazy. Some bowls weighed 26.8 ounces, others barely 13.8, almost twice the difference. And most of the time, you were getting the smaller one. Some locations consistently served much lighter portions than others, with the study noting that certain New York City outlets' bowls were 33% smaller than others on average. For digital orders, when you aren't physically watching them assemble it, the variance was even greater. The biggest online order was 87% heavier than the smallest. In other words, luck of the draw determined whether your $10 burrito bowl was a feast or a snack. Inconsistent portions were real. The internet had receipts, and people were just not happy. Rather than immediately apologize or promise fixes, executives insisted publicly that nothing was wrong. In interviews, Chipotle representatives repeated that portions hadn't been reduced and that any variance was just normal customization. The company suggested that if you got less food, maybe you didn't ask for more. Within Chipotle's own workforce, the situation was tense. Some employees felt unfairly villainized by the phone filming trend and customer confrontations. On Reddit, purported Chipotle crew members vented that being recorded on the job felt like harassment, especially when they believed they were following the proper portion guidelines. To make amends, Chipotle promised to re-emphasize generous servings and consistency, doubling down on training staff to fill the bowl generously for every customer. By the time Chipotle publicly acknowledged the problem, the damage to goodwill was already extensive. Still, there were signs the company's actions were having some effect. Some TikTok users noted in late summer that their local Chipotle was now heaping on more rice and chicken than before. Self-described employees posted that their managers had instructed them to fill up anyone's bowls if they had a phone. Essentially, if someone is recording, make sure their food is plentiful. As Chipotle worked to placate its customers, another audience was growing uneasy: investors. For most of 2024, Wall Street had remained optimistic about Chipotle as the company continued posting a strong sales growth. In fact, even amidst the portion size ordeal, Chipotle's financial performance initially seemed solid, a testament to its loyal fan base and pricing power. In the second quarter of 2024, Chipotle's revenue jumped 18% year-on-year to about $3 billion. Transactions were up, and despite all the social media noise, Chipotle breezed past analysts' expectations that quarter. To any casual observer, it looked like the portion controversy was just that, online chatter with no impact on the bottom line. Perhaps people complained on TikTok and kept buying burritos anyway, which for a while was true. While customers were celebrating their bigger bowls, Chipotle's bottom line was taking a hit. If you suddenly start putting an extra scoop of beans or a more generous helping of meat in each bowl, your food expenses go up. Sure enough, by the third quarter of 2024, Chipotle's food costs as a percentage of sales began to rise. In Q3, Chipotle's ingredient and packaging costs climbed to 30.6% of revenue, up from 29.7% a year earlier. That may sound like a small difference, but on billions in sales, it's significant. The company explicitly told investors why this happened. Higher ingredient usage to clinch consistent and generous portions was a major factor in the cost increase. Avocado prices and dairy inflation also contributed, but the portion fix was a notable drag on margins. Essentially, Chipotle had to spend more on food to win back customers. One could argue that if some locations had been skimping, this extra cost was just bringing portions back to their rightful level. But regardless, it squeezed profitability. Chipotle's restaurant-level operating margin in Q3 fell to 25.5% from 26.3% the year before, even though overall sales were still growing at a healthy clip. For years, Chipotle had managed to grow profits by raising menu prices and tightly controlling costs, from labor to food waste. Now, both those levers were running into limits. By late 2024, customers were pushing back on any further price hikes, and the company's vow of generous portions meant it couldn't quietly trim serving sizes to pad margins. In the meantime, Chipotle's leadership was in flux. Brian Niccol, the celebrated CEO who had led the turnaround since 2018, abruptly stepped down in August 2024 to become CEO of a Starbucks. His departure came just as the portion controversy was reaching a fever pitch. In fact, Niccol's last few months at Chipotle were spent fielding those uncomfortable questions. Some industry watchers wondered if the timing was coincidental or if Niccol saw trouble on the horizon and jumped ship. Regardless, his exit left Chipotle under interim CEO Scott Boatwright, a longtime Chipotle executive. How did a company known for overflowing burritos end up in this predicament? When you built your brand on a promise, you can't just quietly walk away from it. Chipotle found that out, and the lessons apply to pretty much any business. Consumers have more power than ever to scrutinize and spread the word. Chipotle built its legacy by convincing customers they were getting something special, wholesome, abundant meals made just for them. When that implicit deal was perceived to be broken, fans mobilized fast. In fact, any short-term savings Chipotle might have gained by giving out a bit less food were dwarfed by the long-term cost of lost goodwill and corrective measures. Secondly, had Chipotle been forthright and proactive early on, say acknowledging the complaints in real time and immediately reassuring customers that they'd investigate, the narrative might have been different. Instead, the company's initial response was denial and deflection, which read as dishonesty to many fans. That, in turn, fueled a speculation that Chipotle knew it was shortchanging people and tried to cover it up. Nothing infuriates loyal customers more than feeling lied to. Chipotle's late course correction to emphasize its values was the right move, but by the time it happened, it felt reactive rather than genuine. Customer experience is a long-term investment. Chipotle spent decades cultivating a reputation as the go-to place for a satisfying custom burrito bowl. As a matter of fact, one reason Chipotle could raise menu prices 5 times in a few years was that customers still felt they were getting decent value. But value is a function of what you get for what you pay. The company's new CEO, Scott Boatwright, has signaled that 2025 will be all about the total guest experience, doubling down on execution in each restaurant rather than flashy new initiatives. It's a back-to-basics strategy. Great food, great service, no gimmicks, essentially re-earning the customer's love one burrito at a time.